While the blizzard shrieked and howled and raged outside, Laura and Mandy both stayed indoors. Laura kept the fire going from the store of coal in the storm shed. She cooked from the stores in her pantry and cellar, and she sang at her knitting in the afternoon. Old Shep and the cat lay companionably on the rug before the cook stove, and there was warmth and comfort in the little house standing so sturdily in the midst of the raging elements. Late in the afternoon of the fourth day, the wind went down. It lost its whirling force and blew the loose snow skirting close to the ground, packing it into hard drifts that lay over the prairie with bare ground showing between. The sun shone again with a frosty light, and huge sun dogs stood guard on each side of it. And it was cold. Laura and Mandy went outdoors and looked over the desolate landscape. Their ears still throbbed to the tumult of the storm, and the silence following it was somehow confusing. "This has been very bad," Manly said. "We will hear of plenty of damage from this." Laura looked at the smoke rising from the stovepipe in their neighbor's house across the road. She had not been able to see it for 3 days. "Larson's are right away." What's that? "Larson's are all right anyway," she said. Next day, Manly drove to town to get a few supplies and to learn the news. The house was bright and cheerful when he came home. The last rays of the afternoon sun were shining in at the south window, and Laura was ready to help him off with his coat as he came in from the barn after putting up his team and doing the night feeding. But Manly was very sober. After they ate supper, he told Laura the news. A man south of town, caught at his barn by the storm as Manly had been, had missed the house going back. He had wandered out on the prairie and had been found frozen to death when the wind went down. 3 children going home from school had become lost, but found a haystack and dug into it. They had huddled together for warmth and had been drifted in. When the storm stopped, the oldest boy had dug out through the snow, and searchers had found them. They were weak from hunger but not frozen. Range cattle, oh my goodness. Range cattle had drifted before the storm for 100 miles. Blinded and confused, they had gone over a high bank of the Cottonwood River, the later ones falling on top of the first, breaking through the ice of the river and floundering in the water and loose snow until they had smothered and frozen to death. Men were dragging them out of the river now, hundreds of them, and skinning them to save the hides. Anyone who had lost cattle could go look at the brands and claim his own. The storm so early in the season was unexpected, and many people had been caught out in the snow and had frozen their hands and feet. Other storm came soon, but people were prepared now and no damage was done. It was cold for horseback riding, and snow covered the ground, so Manly hitched the driving team to the cutter, the little one-seated sleigh, on Sunday afternoons. Then he and Laura drove here and there over to Pass Farm to see the home folks or to the boats, old friends who lived several miles to the east. But the drives were always short ones, no 20 or 40 miles now. It was too dangerous, for a storm might come up suddenly and catch them away from home. Vernon and Skip were not working now. They were fat and frisky and enjoyed the sleigh rides as much as Laura and Manly. They pranced and danced purposely to make their sleigh bells ring more merrily, while their ears twitched alertly and their eyes shone. Trixie and Fly, the saddle ponies, and Kate and Bill, the working team, were growing fat in the barn and took their exercise in the haystack, sheltered barnyard at the back. The holidays were near, and something must be done about them. The Boast and the Ingalls family had spent them together whenever they could. Thanksgiving dinner at Boast's, Christmas dinner at the Ingalls' home. Now, with Laura and Manly, there was a new family, and it was agreed to add another gathering to those two holidays. New Year's should be celebrated at the Wilders.